of energy independence. And we're also going to be serving lunch over the next 10 to 15 minutes. And as you know, we've got Skype interviews with Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Shelley Capito. So hopefully their schedules allow them to be on time as well. But if you will, join me in welcoming James to the stage again.
I do want to thank Susan and Charles Ryan Associates for putting this event on. I think it's very critical that we can sit down and have these discussions in a candid manner, but also in a very open and public manner. For those of you that know me or have seen some of the work I've done with Vets for Energy over the last 7 years, I'm going to tell you, we built an advocacy effort with veterans that included over 76,000 veterans nationwide. Why veterans are involved in this process? Well, it's very simple. Veterans have made an investment, and sometimes our investment included blood. It is very important that we understand that energy is what moves everything in America. Everything. I mean, from agriculture to national defense to manufacturing and so much more. So it's so much more than just you getting up and putting gas in your gas tank. It is very important to our national security. I'm going to give you a quick history lesson. In World War II, right before World War II, on a day called December 7th, 1941, the Empire of Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The Empire of Japan did a lot of damage to America, but they missed our oil reserves. The entire Pacific Fleet would have been at such a halt had they would have just flown one mountain over and hit the Pacific Fleet oil reserves that had been sitting there. So in the discussion, when we're talking about underground storage and we're talking about, the need for more than just one, let me explain to you, that is a national security issue. We were able to go forward, put our ships into dry harbor, get them into the battle in record time. And we had the energy to be able to do that. That's why it's important. What we do in West Virginia affects the overall national security of America. Understand that less than 10 years ago, we were importing over 60% of our energy resources. Now, as a young man, as a young soldier fighting the war in Iraq and the first one in Operation Desert Storm, I kind of had the understanding that there was some connections with energy and warfare. Because I looked around and I didn't see much manufacturing going on over there. So the enemy was obviously getting their weapon systems and everything that they were using against us from something. And that something was the sale of oil. Now, and if you dig a little deeper into that, you will find that much information exists that clearly showed that some of that oil was making it to the black market. ISIS in their big juggernaut was funded by oil from oil fields that they had taken over. Some of it they stole, some of it they crossed the border with, and they reflagged it. How did you fix that, America? You fix that by going from where we are today, from being an importer of fuel to being an exporter of fuel now. And that is a great thing for us. We as veterans, as citizens of America, we understand that our very livelihood, everything that we base, depends on our ability to have a strong national defense posture. Now I see our Secretary of State back there. He's invested in this. He has personally invested in this with a career in the United States Army, and now all of his kids are serving. There's nothing like watching your children go overseas. It was different for me when I watched my sons go over, and now my daughter, because they take women too. And as they go over, I realize that everything that I do over here has an effect on what they're dealing with. So I want to work very hard to make sure that our enemies do not get 1 penny of American money. And we do that by what we're doing in this room right now, by coming together as Americans and as West Virginians and saying, let's do what needs to be done, let's advance energy independence in America, and let's make it happen safely, efficiently, and quickly. Agriculture. Energy is extremely important to agriculture, and that is the one thing that we're not talking about enough. We have a maple syrup industry that just sits on the cusp of exploding in West Virginia. If you have access to clean, affordable natural gas, then that makes that process a whole lot easier. Agriculture uses energy much more than what you realize. From processing, everybody's talking about industrial hemp now. Industrial hemp. You hear a lot about industrial hemp. Well, without the energy and to run the processing equipment, you can grow a lot of hemp, but if you have nothing to do with it, then it's nothing more than just another weed. So we have to think about these things. How do we advance? How do we move forward? We built the National Coalition of 76,000 veterans with Vets for Energy, and I'm here to tell you that history is playing out right in front of us. For the first time in probably many of our lives, we've seen us go from an importer of energy to an exporter of energy. And some people say, well, why is that a big deal? Because every ounce that we don't bring in here is one less penny, one less $100 bill that could potentially make it into the coffers of our enemies. And trust me when I tell you that our enemies will take that money and will use it against you. It is a geopolitical weapon. I met with General Micah of the Polish Armed Forces. He is the commander of all Polish Armed Forces. And he explained to me about the relationship they have with Russia. That relationship that they have with Russia is not a good one. And understand that he tells us, and he explained to me, that if he could, he would buy nothing from them. Because they remember the day whenever the Iron Curtain was still down. And they remember what happens whenever you put all of your eggs in one basket. And you give the power of energy to your enemies. We as Americans must come together and we must build this country up to the greatest it's ever been. To the greatest it'll ever be. I'm going to give you a saying by one of my favorite leaders, General George Patton. And this is what we all need to take to heart. When Patton says, lead me, follow me, or get the hell out of my way, we need to take on that same mentality, West Virginia, and be leaders in this world of energy. Thank you very much for your time. God bless West Virginia, and God bless America.
Thank you, James. I'm going to introduce Jack Harrison.